Hello. I realize that I have not done a video for you people, at least one that's been decent lately. I find it so hard to live up to other people's demands that I sometimes forget why I've even originally done these videos. So, anyway. Let me tell you what's been going on with my life as of the most recent. A couple days ago, I went to a Renaissance fair. I got to dress up in medieval garb and did some shopping. Now, most of the jewelry I ended up buying, I tried to buy jewelry that I could actually incorporate into my day-to-day life, with the exception of this. But it was only $14, so I figured, you know, what the heck. And it went so nice with the dress I was wearing, and I got to feel like a little princess. You know? In other news, a couple weeks back, I actually went to Hocking Hills, and I actually got to stay at a castle. I stayed at the Ravenwood Castle, in a 4-poster queen-size bed. And I did a lot of hiking and rock climbing. It was very fun. So now, for the most recent stuff. I called Headmaster, which is a website, whatever, for my actual STA information. You know. And they have a website in the back and a phone number, and I called them, so I am state certified now, and I will be getting my license in a couple days. But now it brings me to a dilemma, a concern, a worry, a fear of mine. All this time when I've been working in Manor Family Foods, I've always, you know, when someone says he, him, and sir, I always have, they knew me before, to fall back on. I always have, well, they saw me before I started this whole transition of mine. At least physically. So, I can understand. So it's not the fact that I don't look like a girl. It's the fact that they know. But what happens if I go to a new job and I still get served and heed? And then I no longer have that to fall back on. I no longer have the, they knew me before. I have to face the reality of, it's because I give off the presence of a boy. And that's a cold, scary fact, because me and all the other girls like me aren't doing this to be perceived or seen as effeminate boys. We're doing this to be seen as women. And I've quite often asked myself, what will I do when that's broken? When the illusion of they've known me before is no longer the reason that they're saying, sir, can you help me? What if it's just because I come off as a boy? And then I ask myself, well, what will I do after that? And I realize I'll do what I've always done, and continue to do what I have been doing. I'm not doing my transition for anyone else. I'm doing it for me, and that's the important thing to keep in mind. I'm doing this to make me feel happy. Because let's face it, if we were doing our transitions for the people around us, the people we cared about, quite often we would never transition. You don't transition for your wife and for your kids and for your job. It's quite often your job and your wife and your kids have a hard time accepting you for you. I mean, imagine, as hard as it was for you to come to this conclusion of you are that way. You are who you are. Imagine how much more difficult it has to be for them to accept. Where my daddy's dead. You took away my father. Brother or son will work just as well. But still. And although I've never really had to deal with that, and I was very grateful and lucky in that aspect, I still am empathetic and sympathetic. But still, I am nervous and I am worried that although I can pass in short terms, in brief glances, in momentary engagements with people, I'm concerned that when it comes to day-to-day life, when it comes to interacting on a person long term, how passable am I going to be then? And I know I'm passable when I whisper, and when my voice is but a small sound. But the trouble is, when you're dealing with the elderly and you're dealing with senior citizens, you can't speak in small sounds. You have to speak in loud sounds. You have to say, "Can I help you, sir?" Because if you don't, they won't be able to hear you or understand you. And sometimes I feel that the more feminine I try to sound, the more of a gay male I get perceived as. So those are the fears that are going on right now in my head and in my heart. So yes, my life is progressing, and it is advancing. But yet, I should be happy, but I feel so afraid and so worried and so nervous inside. So that's kind of what's going on with me right here and right now. And I'm sure some of the other girls out there can relate and understand. But it's quite a difficult decision to make on, and the whole thing is just very nerve-wracking. I don't know how to put into further words. But maybe I won't be passable. Would that be so bad? Maybe it's more important what I see in the mirror, and who I see in the mirror, and who I feel I am in my heart and soul. Maybe the fact that I feel so emotional over this subject that I want to just cry and break down right now is proof enough of who I am. Because a person that I used to be would have never even bothered being this open, this honest with themselves and with other people. And maybe that's more important than how other people perceive me, is how I perceive myself. So this is Ariana Lynn Fales, sharing myself with you, and hoping that you'll share yourself with me in exchange. Thank you all, and I hope this has helped someone, because if not, you know. Thank you.